Where your shoes, baby? Yes. You gotta get your shoes. Everybody got shoes like that? Go get your shoes. Good girl. Go find your shoes, baby girl. Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Vinette Shalom. Tikva Grand Rising. Set apart living Grand Rising. Anita Shalom. Shalom. All right. You get nice soup? You get nice soup? No. Oh, okay. You looking for something?
No, just waiting.
That's where when you get paid, you better order you some.
See, I rather drink, water like literally water. No.
I'm getting one of these apples.
Yes.
I want water like
When you get paid, you know how much I paid for a case of 6?
Where you get that?
You got to order them from Amazon. You about to drink a whole case. I only ordered 4.
Where?
Yes.
I mean, you got me hooked up. I'm sorry. This is not your fault.
Jeremiah David.
You're awesome. Thank you so much. You deserve it.
My coconut waters. He went and got 5 to put in his bottle. I mean, I'm grateful that he's filling his body with something good. You know how much? Boy, you better order you some. Look on Amazon. And you can get them from Food Line. At Food Line, they're like a piece. I think it's like $2.99, almost $3 a bottle. And they only put like 6 out there at a time. So when I go out there and they got them, I always grab all 6. On top of the case I ordered. Boy. I went in there the other day, had my mouth all fixed and ready for some coconut water, and they were all gone. You and Elijah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, baby. All right, go get shoes. All right, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. It is the last day of the month, July the 31st, 2022, day 173 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1191. Okay. And we are picking back up in the Book of Wars Against Jehovah on page 365. Book of Wars of Jehovah is found in the Oahspe. Everybody knows that, but just in case somebody comes and like, okay, where is that found? In Oahspe. Big Blue. You can find it online on Amazon. I think it's like $30. If you got Prime, they always have a little $5 sale, so you probably get about $25. All right, y'all. I wanted to, I'll see, because I didn't read ahead in Book of Wars Against the Jehovah. We'll read a little bit and then I'll see. I'll see. Because if it alludes to something, then I'm gonna do what we did yesterday. We're gonna jump to a portion of something. Okay, Jen, Grand Rising. Father, we thank you that truth has returned to the earth. All right, chapter 43, page 365. Suga, after assuming a heaven why do you have a pool noodle? Go put it back, please. Ooh, see, it's too big for you. Why is the garage door even open? How she got a pool noodle? She almost like got me right here in the side of my face. She got me right here. Go put the pool noodle back. Sudga, after assuming a heaven unto himself, moved it over the Nua mountains and called it Hidrat. Ridat. And maybe the H is silent. Haridat. In which place he had 8,000 million angel slaves, after the same manner as Tain's, Sudga's capital city. Sawachissa, his highest heavenly seat, was modeled after the fashion of Sanctu, Deus's heavenly place in Horeb at the time of its greatest magnificence. The capital house of Suga was made of precious stones and gems, the work of thousands of millions of angels for many years. And when Horeb was pillaged, prior to Deus's being cast into hell, millions of its most precious ornaments were stolen and brought to Horidat. The streets of Horidat. Yeah, maybe the H is silent. If it's wrong, I'm sorry. The streets of Horidat were paved with precious stones, and an arena surrounded the palace on every side, set with crystals of every shade and color, and of every conceivable manner of workmanship. On the borders of the arena stood 500 million sentinels, arrayed in gorgeousness such as only gods had looked upon. Inside the line of sentinels were 1 million pillars of fire, kept brilliant day and night by the toil of 500 million slaves. Inside the line of pillars of fire were 1 million marshals, so arrayed in splendor one could scarce look upon them. These were watch and watch, with two other groups of 1 million each, and they stood watch 8 hours each. Jamia, Shalom, Elijah 7, Grand Rising, Great Spirit, love and light. None but the vice gods and the high marshals could cross the arena to the palace walking, but must crawl on their bellies, and for every length crawled, they must kiss the pavement and recite an anthem of praise to Sudga, who now took both names, Sudga and Deus. I mean, nobody even questioned that. Neither must anyone repeat the same anthem twice, but it must be a new anthem for each and every length of the person. For a tall person, 1,000 lengths were required. From that line, for a tall person, 1,000 lengths were required. From the line of marshals to the palace, 1,000 anthems. They probably should have wrote that out and probably had it in their hand while they went. Like, you know what? I'm not going to be visiting here very often. Shebrew, all praises to the Creator. Shalom. None but the vice gods and high marshals could cross the arena to the palace, walking, but must crawl on their bellies. And for every length crawled, they must kiss the pavement and recite an anthem of praise to Sudga, who now took both names, Sudga and Dias. Neither must anyone repeat the same anthem twice, but it must be a new anthem for each and every length of the person. For a tall person, 1,000 lengths were required. From the line of marshals to the palace, 1,000 anthems. So that only the few, as compared to his millions, ever laid eyes on the throne of Suga. And after they so beheld him on the throne, they were only permitted to gaze but once on him, and that at a great distance. And amidst such a sea of fire, they scarce could see him. Then they must recrawl back again to the place of the beginning, again reciting another 1,000 anthems. You know what? I'm going to send word to you.
Yeah.
Which made Sudga almost inaccessible and permitted only such as were favored to even look upon him, which with the ignorant is a great power. When Ahura came to the capital and sent word to Sudga who he was, praying audience, Sudga gave orders to admit him, commanding Ahura to walk upright on his presence, commanding Ahura to walk upright into his presence, along with the vice gods. Accordingly, in this manner, Ahura came before Sudga and saluted in love and esteem, answered by Sudga in friendship of old. So remember, Ahura, just yesterday, Trina, hey girl, hey, that's Wabu. Look, so remember yesterday, Shayla, great rising, S-I-L, grand rising. So yesterday, Ahura went to talk to Tan, and that seemed like it turned out pretty good, you know. So he said, you know what? You are real wise, my brother. I'll consider these things, right? So before they get thrown in a knot, just like Anusahaj did, Ahura asked Jehovah if he could go and at least try to plead with the other three before the same fate happened to them. So now he's approaching Sudga. When Ahura came to the capital, we're on page 366, page 5. Who is it going? Open it, pick it up, put that in the corner. Verse 5. When Ahura came to the capital and sent word to Sudga who he was, praying audience, Sudga gave orders to admit him, commanding Ahura. Why y'all fighting? Look, we're calling each other names. What's the problem?
He must be a big private man. It says right over a chair. You ain't playing the game, give it up.
Sometimes I just let them fight. I'm like, y'all got to work this out yourself. But if they start fighting and wrestling or they fall into my wall, then I'll come in and I'll probably break it up like, hey, stop it. They both had chairs this time. I thought it was about to swing and hit each other. But apparently they was trying to get it to go up to the loft to play the game. They didn't want to sit on the little ottoman. They want the little folding chairs. And so they was fighting over who got what folding chair. But y'all heard them. They both went up the stairs with the chair. Okay. Verse 5, I'll read it again. Page 366. When Ahura came to the capital and sent word to Sudga who he was, praying audience, Sudga gave orders to admit him, commanding Ahura to walk upright into his presence. See all of them. Hold on just 1 second. Everybody want to fight? Boy, where's your drawers? Get in here. Get in here. Oh, you know what? How about we do this? Elijah. Girl clothes? No.
You okay?
I'm sorry. Okay. Yo. I'm just keep on reading. Verse 5. Yeah, you might want to get something that belongs to you. So yeah, that don't happen. My 3-year-old grandbaby. It looked like he got on his 6-year-old brother's pants and they falling down to his ankles. He doesn't have on anything under them. That's how bad he wanted to go outside. He just wanted to cover himself. And to him, pants is pants. But bruh. Oh my God. Josh, get the door, please. Okay. I'm gonna ignore the distractions. Verse 5. I think this is Jeremiah. The door automatically locks when you close it. When Ahura came to the capital and sent word to Suga who he was, I'm sorry. Y'all so loud. I'm sorry. I'm gonna just keep going. Bella, chill. Take the pool noodle back to the garage. When Ahura came to the capital and sent word to Suga who he was, praying audience, Suga gave orders to admit him, commanding Ahura to walk upright into his presence, along with the vice gods. Wait a minute, hold on. You was just telling Elijah you need him. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Nothing.
You told your mom this morning?
No, they're already. Jalen and Janiyah have been up. That's who you heard at the door. That was Jeremiah. They're both.
Work.
Oh, they left with Jonathan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You come to work.
Okay. And Elijah riding with you.
Elijah, no. I don't know if I'm going today.
Okay.
But I know they got an appointment between 10:45 and 1 today.
Right. Oh, did he clear his stuff out of his room?
That's what I'm just saying. I asked Elijah to help him.
Oh, I thought you asked him to go out to the project.
No.
Oh, whew, boy, I was like, I'm gonna be here with all the gremlins.
No, good.
Okay.
Come on in, Herb. Come on in.
Okay, y'all. I'm sorry. Auntie, blissful rising. Alicia, ya, Salama, Francis, love, power, and wisdom. Shalom. Okay, y'all.
Those other ones, the big one. Yeah.
Page 366, verse 5. When Ahura came to the capital and sent word to Suga who he was, praying audience, Suga gave orders to admit him, commanding Ahura to walk upright into his presence along with the vice gods. Accordingly, in this manner, Ahura came before Suga and saluted in love and esteem, answered by Suga in friendship of old. The latter at once commanded privacy, and so all others withdrew, and Ahura and Suga went up and sat on the throne. Suga said, because thou hast come to see me, I am overflowing with joy. Because I know thou hast come to admonish me for my philosophy and the manner of my dominions, I respect thee. Because thou did once try to found a kingdom of thine own and failed, I sympathize with thee. But because thou wentest back on thyself and accepted Jehovah, and so was rescued from thy peril, I commiserate thee. Like, I know you tried to do this before. You like my kingdom. You like how I set it up. See, I know you tried to do this before and you failed and you had to run back to daddy, right? I didn't. So I'm taking pity on you. That's why I gave you audience. Because you might be out here trying to do it again. Maybe you can take some wisdom from me this time. Tiffany! Hey, girl, hey. Listen. Verse 7, page 366. Ahura said, to hear thy gifted tongue once more is my great joy. To know that no misfortune was in store for thee, and thy kingdom would give me great delight. Because I love thee and the people of thy mighty heavenly kingdom, I have come to admonish thee and plead for Jehovah's sake. As for myself, I have found that to cast all my cares on him and then turn in and work hard for others, these two things give me the greatest happiness. I've come to love Ahura. At first, I'm like, dude is tripping. I can't even, the audacity of him. Now I've really grown fond of him and his love for his friends who on their way to a deep darkness. And he's trying to help save them. Yeah, just lock them all out. We can see them from the window. They'll be all right. As for myself, I have found that to cast all my cares on him and then turn in and work hard for others, these two things give me the greatest happiness, right? So he keeping to what we read yesterday in chapter 37 of the book of Judgment yesterday, right?
Why?
Suga said, can a brave man justly cast his cares upon another? Was not thyself given to thyself? Yeah, that's what it say. Was not thyself given to thyself? Yes. Chill. Nobody was downstairs. When they see me come downstairs, everybody want to flood the downstairs. They be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Sudga, verse 8. Sudga said, can a brave man justly cast his cares upon another? Was not thyself given to thyself for thyself? If so, thou desirest none to work for thee. If so, how hast thou a right to work for others? If thou prevent them, if thou prevent them working out their own destiny, wrongest not thou them? Moreover, thou sayest to cast thy cares on Jehovah and to work hard for others. These two give thee the greatest happiness. Wherefore art thou not selfish to work for thine own happiness? For it is for is not this what I am doing for myself in mine own way? Ohora said, grant all thy arguments, O Sutha. Where shall we find a measure of righteous works but in the sum of great results? For you or me to be happy, that is little. For a million angels to be happy, that is little. But when we put two kingdoms alongside and they be the same size and have the same number of inhabitants, is it not just that we weigh them in their whole measure to find which of the two kingdoms have the greater number of happy souls? Would not this be a better method of arriving at the highest philosophy? James Brown. Sudga said, yea, that would be higher than logic, higher than reason. That would be the foundation of a sound theory. Ohora said, and have we not found, both in heaven and earth, that all kingdoms that are overthrown have the cause of their fall in the unhappiness and disaffection of the ignorant? As soon as the masses begin to be in unrest, the rulers apply vigorous measures to repress them, but it is only adding fuel to the fire. It deadeneth it a while, but only to have it burst forth more violently afterward. Sudga said, thou reasonest well, O Ahura, go on. Ahura said, how then shall we determine the happiness of two kingdoms in order to determine which hath the greater happiness? Are not revolts evidence of unhappiness? Hear me then, O Sudga, where in all of Jehovah's heaven hath there ever been a revolt? And on the earth, where have the Jehovahans, the faithists, rebelled against their rulers? Behold, in the far off Etherian heavens, behold, in the far off Etherian heavens, the Nirvanian fields, hath never been any god or chief environed in tortures. As for my kingdom, my people will not rebel against me, nor need I fortify myself against disaster. Sudga said, thou art wise, O Ahura. The only way to judge a kingdom's happiness is by the peace and contentment and civility of its people toward one another, and by the confidence betwixt the ruler and the ruled. He who hath to guard himself liveth on the eve of destruction of his kingdom and himself. And yet, O Ahura, remember this: the Jehovahans of heaven and earth are high raised ere they become such. Anyone can be a ruler for them, for they know righteousness. But I have to deal with drooks and druhas. How then canst thou compare my kingdom with the Nirvanian kingdoms? Ahura said, alas, O Sudga, I fear my arguments are void before thee. Thou showest me that the line betwixt selfishness and unselfishness is finer than a spider's web. Even gods cannot distinguish it. And yet, behold, there was a time when I said, I will be a mighty God, and bow not unto the unknown that brought me into being. For this I labored long and hard. The responsibility of my kingdom finally encroached upon my happiness. Long after that, I put away all responsibility and made myself a servant to Jehovah. Then a new happiness came upon me, even when I had nothing that was mine in heaven and earth. You know something? This is, I think I understand this so much because, like, for one, I have a huge family. right? I come from a huge family and I have a huge family myself. And then we run a business, right? That not now is such high turnover of people. So running a family and running a business is like running a kingdom, just on a very, 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 very minute level, especially being what some would consider a mom and pop, right? And so it's like you go through all these things, and then after a while, when you when you're trying to grow your business and you're considering the growth and the quality of people you have, it really should make you consider your ways and how you're running the company. Because if you go and you look at different companies and they're always talking about management and management doesn't listen, it's not going to be too long before there always fires that the manager or the owner have to put out in the company between the employees because they're unhappy or they feel like some injustice is being done to them or somebody else, and nobody's speaking up, nobody at the top. Like, what do you, how you, you know what? I'm not dealing with this anymore, and I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. Some people don't even put in 2 weeks; they just leave. Right? Same thing we see, at least I see, with running these kingdoms. Right? You got some of them that leave if they feel like an injustice or something is not getting done or something has been promised to them that hasn't been given to them. It's like the same thing, right? So you really can gauge how well your business is doing for the most part. Not saying like the financials and stuff is not important, because it really is, but that's only a small part of the equation, right? The continuity and the camaraderie of the team that's actually helping you grow and build the business and be a business, I would say is probably one of the most important parts, right? Because if your people not happy, they're going to be they're not going to have a good time working and doing their jobs, right? And then it affects the quality of the work of your company and your name, right? So that's something we found out, and so we try to be mindful of our employees. And even when we kind of keep our employee base tight, and even the manpower that we get from the temp services, we've so designed our company now. We was like, well, how does Google keep all the, granted they pay people a lot, but there are some companies who actually their people love to go to work because they're taken care of, they got good benefits, and it's just the leadership is really mindful about how their people are being treated. So it was like, you know what, we need to be just as mindful, even though we just less than a handful of people over here. But when we have big projects, we get extra workers, manpower from temp services. It's the same principles that apply, because we've been on some projects where people get manpower and they treat these people like crap. I'm like, oh my God, why are you talking to them like that? And of course, you got some people that feel like they don't have any other choice and they have to be here. Little girl, and they bite their tongue and they allow people to talk to them any type of way just to get a paycheck. And that's not right. That's not right for you. Why lower your standards for $1, right? Find a place where you can be celebrated and not tolerated. And I don't know. We won't talk about nobody else, but we just observe and we just adjust our company to make sure we not one of them. So when we request people, we use like three different, well, we use a few depending on where we're at, but here in the local area we use three different temp services. And they said when the people here hear that your company needs people, they said, we kid you not, they are fighting to be on y'all jobs. And we're like, that's how it should be. That lets us know that we're doing something right, because we treat them just like they are already a part of our family, right? We treat them not like, oh, you attempt, get out of here. And we check on them. We make sure that my husband always takes a cooler out there, especially during the summertime. A cooler, he keeps the cooler stocked with ice and water and stuff. And because some of them, we know, because we kind of came up through that a little bit when my husband, because of his background, when nobody would hire him because of what was on his background, because of what we came out of, he was once at a temp service, right? And so he understands their plight because he was once them. And so He makes sure that everybody good, even when we go on lunch breaks and you have people off to the side, like, go ahead, we got lunch break. Oh yeah, we're good. Can we just like work through? And so my husband realized a lot of times they didn't even have money to eat lunch. So they would rather just like keep working. It's like, no, take a break. It's real hot. You need to, And so instead of asking them, because he could already kind of perceive that they probably didn't even have just a few dollars to maybe grab a sandwich or a slice of pizza from 7-Eleven, instead of asking them and putting them on the spot, because men have dignity. They ain't gonna be like, hey bro, can I get a couple dollars? They ain't gonna do that. For one, they out here at the labor ready place. They trying to do something. So what he did, instead of asking them, he just decided on these days who we got here, he'll observe who we have, how they form or whatever. And without letting anybody know, right before lunchtime, if he kind of perceive that's happening or whatever, my husband, he'll get lunch for everybody. That way everybody can eat, right? So little things like that we try to be mindful of, and just, make sure we're really understanding the people who work for us, because if we treat you good, you're gonna treat us good, and you're gonna work good for us. And we don't want our name to be out there in the streets like, oh, y'all don't want to work for them. Right. So that's how we kind of gauge. And so when I read through this, I'm like, you know what? This is really, really interesting. That's why y'all hear me say a lot of times, all the things that they're doing on a higher level, we've been doing all the time. You just got to notice that it's the same patterns that's happening. We're getting training now here, whether it's with your family and keeping your family together and understanding the dynamic of your home and the different personalities, or you're running a business. How is the business? How profitable are you? Right? Are you getting complaints? Your people don't know how, they don't understand customer service. You got a boss, you got people leaving, all like, what type of dynamic, right? If we understand that we are literally being trained now for what will come, like we'll probably get it together a whole lot faster and be mindful and actually really pay attention, so we can adjust these things now. Because if you can handle it on a smaller level, when it begins to grow, you're just going to flourish that much more, right? So as I'm reading through this, I'm like, yo, we're like dealing with this all the time, right? And even if you're working for somebody else and they put you in charge, and you have to kind of look over people if you don't have them. Like, everybody gets this training in every area of life. It don't matter what you're doing. I can see the pattern in almost everything. Okay. I just want to say this is amazing to me. Okay. Let me go back to 13, page 366. Sudga said, thou art wise, O Ahura. The only way to judge a kingdom's happiness is by the peace and contentment and civility of its people toward one another, and by the confidence betwixt the ruler and the ruled. He who hath to guard himself liveth on the eye of the destruction of his kingdom and himself. And yet, O Ahura, remember this: the Jehovians of heaven and earth are high raised, ere they become such. Anyone can be a ruler for them, for they know righteousness. But I have to deal with drooks and druhas. How then canst thou compare my kingdom with the Nirvanian kingdoms? So what he's saying, yeah, you got these type of people, but I got to deal with the dudes that come from the streets. And you telling me why not to do this? Let me tell you, some of them dudes from the street that you think, like, with their attitude or whatever, who they'll give other companies hell. If you're able to look and see what's happening and take care of them before they even can say anything or being happy, they'll be some of the most faithfulest people. Like, they'll die, they'll go to war for you if it had to be done, you know. Listen, Ahura said, alas, Odusuga. Hold on. Let me finish this last sentence. I'll read this one, then the last sentence for this verse 13. And yet, O Ahura, remember this. Look, girl, stop. And yet, O Ahura, remember this: the Jehovians of heaven and earth are high raised, ere they become such. Anyone can be a ruler for them, for they know righteousness. But I have to deal with droops and druhas. How then canst thou compare my kingdom with the Nirvanian kingdoms? Ahura said, alas, O Suga, I fear my arguments are void before thee. And thou showest me that the line betwixt selfishness and unselfishness is finer than a spider's web. Even gods cannot distinguish it. And yet, behold, there was a time when I said, I will be a mighty God, and bow not unto the unknown that brought me into being. For this I labored long and hard. The responsibility of my kingdom finally encroached upon my happiness. Long after that, I put away all responsibility and made myself a servant to Jehovah. Then a new happiness came upon me, even when I had nothing that was mine in heaven and earth. This is also unknowable to me. It is within my members as a new tree of delight. That this it is that I would tell thee of, but I cannot find it. It flieth not away, it baffleth words, even as a description of the great Spirit is void because of his wondrous majesty. Such is the joy of his service. Such is the joy of his service that even gods and angels cannot describe it. With its growth, we look famine in the face and weep not. We see falling GA and fear not. And the ebb and flow of the tide of Jehovah's works, we float as one with him with a comprehensive joy. Hurry up, guys. Close the door. Take all that. Take the pool noodles back to the garage. Yes. You're gonna have to wait a few minutes. Go ahead. Take the Bella, all the pool noodles. Verse 16, page 367. Subga said, to hear thy voice is joy to me. To not hear thee is great sorrow. Behold, I will consider thy words of wisdom. In thy far off place, I will come in remembrance and love to thee. Thus ended the interview, and Subga signaled his vice gods and high marshal, excuse me, to come. Whereat, oh, hold on. I love my son. He left me two of my coconut waters. I just realized it. He pushed them right here. Hold on. Yes, baby. That's not mine. Ask him for some. Verse 16. Thus ended the interview, and Sudga signaled his vice gods and high marshal to come, whereat he saluted Ahura in the sign of craft, and Ahura answered him in the sign time. And then Ahura, betwixt the vice gods, led by the high marshal, departed, passed beyond the arena where the vice gods and the high marshal gave him into the charge of the martial host, who conducted him beyond the line of sentinels, where Ahura joined his own attendants and went with them into his otivan and set sail for Aghoadin, Osiris's heavenly place, which had been over Parsi, but was now moved over Arabenia. It took us such a long time to get through this first chapter. All right, y'all. Leave that alone. Chapter 44.
Jackson, this is on your candy.
Whose is that?
Jackson.
He asked him for it, and you holding it like it's yours. Give it to him.
How is this Jackson?
Do you know? Well, you know it doesn't belong. Is this yours?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Whose is this, Jace?
I think it's Silas.
How did Saya get any? We didn't buy y'all any.
Then why there's two more?
Go give this to Elijah. And you better not open that. Go give it to Elijah. I didn't buy any for y'all. Chapter 44, page 367. 44 has 26 verses. At this time, Osiris's heavenly kingdom numbered 13,000 million angels, good and bad, and it was the largest heavenly kingdom ever established on the earth. It was built after the manner of Sugas, that is to say, modeled after Sanctu in Horeb, but more magnificent than Sugas' kingdom and far larger. The arena way was 5,000 lengths of a man across, so that approaching visitors to the throne must crawl 2,000 lengths in order to approach the throne. And they also had to repeat an anthem of praise or a prayer for every length crawled, going and coming. And they were like at Sudgas, permitted to approach only within a long distance. Guys, y'all gotta get out of here. Come on, out, out, out. Go, get out, everybody. Don't stare at me. Get out here, girl. Y'all go to the loft. Everybody, to the loft. Let's go to the loft, everybody. You too, Jackson. I started two again. It was built after the manner of Sudgas, that is to say, modeled after Sanctu in Horeb, but more magnificent than Sudgas' kingdom and far larger. The arena way was 5,000 lengths of a man across, so that approaching visitors to the throne must crawl 2,000 lengths in order to approach the throne. And they also had to repeat an anthem of praise or a prayer for every length crawled, going and coming. And they were, like at Sudgas, permitted to approach only to within a long distance from Osiris, whilst the array of lights around him were so dazzling that scarcely any could look upon him. And they that thus approached were so reverential that their minds magnified Osiris's glorious appearance so much, and they verily believed they had looked into the Creator's face and saw of a truth man was of his image and likeness, and thousands and even millions that had thus crawled to look upon him afterward went about in heaven preaching Osiris as the veritable all highest creator of heaven and earth. Osiris made his godhead to consist of three persons. First, himself as the fountain of the universe, whose name was unspeakable. Second, Baal, his only begotten son, into whose keeping he had assigned the earth and all mortals thereon. And third, Ashtaroth, his virgin daughter, into whose keeping he had assigned life and death, or rather the power of begetting and the power to cause death with mortals. Osiris was the most cunning of all the self gods, for he thus appropriated the triangle of the Faithists, thus appropriated the names and powers of the Lord God, the false, now in hell. For only through Baal and Ashtaroth could any mortal or spirit ever attain to approach the arena of the throne to Agoaddin. And here again they had to pass the high sentinel, Egypt, before they were entitled to the right to crawl on their bellies over the sacred pavement, the way to the heavenly palace. Only the vice gods of Osiris and his chief marshal could walk upright to the capital palace, and they with heads bowed low. And when Osiris was informed of Ahura's coming, he sent word that he should come upright with head erect, but veiled from head to foot. To this Ahura gladly consented, and being thus veiled by Egypt and handed over to the vice gods and the chief marshal, he walked upright till he came to the high arch of the palace. Here they halted, and Ahura saluted on the sign, old time love. And Osiris answered in the sign, joy in heaven. You know what this made me think about? You know how when you see, it remind me of like gang handshakes, right? So you know different gang members, Mom, Shalom, Shalom, Ali, Shalom. You know, you know how they greet each other and they all got these different hand signals. What's up, my G? You know. You got this different one that they do. Every time I read, they greet each other in a sign of time or old time love or the creator. It made me think of gang signs. So they, you know, everybody got their own thing that they do, right? Okay.
Go back to what you said. It's gonna be too loud for me.
It's gonna probably be just as loud as it was.
Just one of them?
Yeah, because you was like right over me with the vents in Jeremiah's room.
All right, I'll finish.
Okay. Okay. I'll read verse 5 again. Only the vice gods of Osiris and his chief marshal could walk upright to the capital palace, and they with heads bowed low. And when Osiris was informed of Ahura's coming, he sent word that he could come upright with head erect, but veiled from head to foot. To this, Ahura gladly consented, and being thus veiled by Egypt and handed over the vice gods and the chief marshal, he walked upright till he came to the high ark of the palace. Here they halted, and Ahura saluted on the sign, old time love, and Osiris answered in the sign, joy in heaven. Whereupon Ahura left the vice gods and walked near the throne, and Osiris came down, and they embraced in each other's arms, not having seen each other for more than 1,000 years. Osiris signaled the vice gods and chief marshal to fall back, and they did so, and ascended the throne and sat thereon privately. You know something I just noticed. First of all, clearly we know that, right? Because only here, yes, babe.
How many times here?
Because only here, you know what? You ain't got to keep it on for me to tie it. Take it out. Take it. Here you just slide these on your feet. Only here, while we have flesh, do we need sleep. And these dudes, it like for these dudes to have known each other for more than 1,000 years, it's like y'all got like where they don't have time, because clearly time is non-existent in the S world, the spiritual realm. It's like y'all up 24/7. Like, what do y'all do with all this time, right? You just work, you got downtime where you relax. I ain't seen in here yet that none of the ones who have lost their flesh that they sleep, right? I'm sure you don't need it, but there you go. I just thought about it. Cameron, shalom. Okay. Verse 6, page 367. Osiris signaled the vice gods and chief marshal to fall back, and they did so. And they ascended the throne and sat thereon privately. Osiris said, "This is a great joy. To meet one's love, is not this greater? After all, hold on. Osiris said, "This is a great joy. To meet one's loves, is not this greater, after all, than all the pomp and glory of the gods?" Ahura said, "True, but who is wise enough to live and enjoy so cheap a glory?" Oh,
Mom,
he coming with it
Mom,
when he first opened his mouth. Yes.
Mom, for a light switch. Is this for a light switch?
No, I don't think so.
Mom, that's for chopsticks.
Right, that is for chopsticks.
See?
Yeah, it's to help you learn how to use the chopsticks, but they don't need them anymore because they all know how to use them. Yeah, it's like a guide for small children. Yep.
That's pretty.
Yeah, Pootie can use it. Okay.
Can I get hot chocolate?
Can y'all like get out of the kitchen? Get out of here. Bye.
Look at this.
Verse 7. Osiris said, "This is a great joy, to meet one's love." And that, don't think that was mean. I said, get out of here. Because every morning they come here trying to get hot chocolate. And when I tell them no, they proceed to pull out all the stuff for the hot chocolate, like I'm going to make it. And I said, no, get out the kitchen. So he's trying to say, no, get out of here and wait. It's like adults with coffee, right? They want hot chocolate first thing in the morning. Can we get hot chocolate? Yeah, it's morning. We're woke. We want some. Osiris said, "This is a great joy. To meet one's love, is this not greater, after all, than all the pomp and glory of the gods?" Ahura said, "True, but who is wise enough to live to enjoy so cheap a glory? We run afar off. We build up mighty kingdoms, and our places are replete with great magnificence, and search after what? Whilst that which thus costs nothing, love, the greatest good of all in heaven and earth, we leave out in the cold. More delight have I to again look upon thy buoyant face and to hear music of thy voice than I ever had in my heavenly kingdom of 7,000 million angels." Osiris said, "Is it not so with all gods and with mortal kings and queens?" Guys, calm down. Y'all supposed to be in a loft. What are y'all doing? Baby doll. Stop. Well, I tell you, 1-year-olds, they more delight have I to again look upon thy buoyant face and to hear the music of thy voice than I ever had in my heavenly kingdom of 7,000 million angels. I'm sorry, Osiris said, is it not so with all gods and with mortal kings and queens? They boast to the extent and power of their countless millions, and yet they have not more to love them than would match in numbers their fingers' ends, whom they can take into their arms in the fullness of reciprocity. What then are pomp and glory? Are not kings and queens of earth but watchdogs to guard the stinking flesh and bones of other mortals? Hold on. Kind of like what? No, let me not say that. I was about to say, ain't that what parents saw? That's terrible. Hold on. What then are pomp and glory? Are not kings and queens of the earth but watchdogs to guard the stinking flesh and bones of other mortals? Are not the gods equally base in their dirty trade of ruling over foul-smelling Druhas? Ahura said, it is so. But whence is this great desire to rule over others, to lead them to be applauded, and to revel in the toil of the millions? Would it not be wise for the gods who understand this to resign their mighty kingdoms and go along with their loves to feast in the great expanse of the universe? Osiris said, true, O Ahura, but who has power to do this? Certainly not the gods, and it is not so with mortals. For thousands of years, have, I'm sorry, for thousands of years have they not been told, except ye give up your earthly kingdoms and give up your riches, ye cannot rise in heaven. But behold, the rich man cannot give up his riches, the king cannot give up his kingdom, they are weak indeed. As well expect an unhatched bird to fly, as for such souls to be but slaves in our dominions. This do I perceive also of mine own kingdom. I cannot give it up, because forsooth I cannot get the desire to give it up. Although my judgment saith it would be the highest, best thing for me. Kind of like when I chose to just go ahead and give up going postal. You know what? I'm doing a disservice to this community. I'm gonna go ahead and give it up. It is the best thing for me and for this kingdom and for all these customers, right? Let me read this again. This is good. Verse 10, the bottom of page 367. Osiris said, true, O Ahura, but who hath power to do this? Certainly not the gods. And it is not so with mortals. And is it not so with mortals? For thousands of years, they have not. Can they like go back outside for just this?
Go, go outside. Go, 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 go. Come here. Come here.
For thousands of years, have they not been told, except ye give up your earthly kingdoms and give up your riches, ye cannot rise in heaven. But behold, the rich man cannot give up his riches, the king cannot give up his kingdom, they are weak indeed. As well expect an unhatched bird to fly, as for such soul to be but slaves in our dominions. This do I perceive also of mine own kingdom, I cannot give it up, because forsooth I cannot get the desire to give it up, although my judgment said it would be the highest, best thing for me. Ahura said, are not great possessions like unto dissipation? I have seen mortals who admit the highest, best thing to do is to live the highest, best to live. Hold on. Ahura said, are not great possessions like unto dissipation? I have seen mortals who admit The highest, best thing to do is to live the highest, best one knoweth, and straightway go off and pollute the body by eating flesh and drinking wine. They also know the right way, but to attain to the desire to put in practice what one knoweth to be the highest, they have not reached. Just like Paul said, the thing that I desire to do, I do not. And the thing that I don't desire to do, I do. Right? He just said the same thing in just different words. I'll read it again. Because he said, listen, I know that'll be the best thing for the kingdom. He said, but I just can't do it. Verse 11, page 368. Uhura said, are not great possessions like unto dissipation? I have seen mortals who admit the highest best thing to do is to live the highest best one knoweth, and straightway go off and pollute the body by eating flesh and drinking wine. They also know the right way, but to attain to the desire to put in practice what one knoweth to be the highest, they have not reached. Osiris said, yea, all this is dissipation. And if a man give away what he hath, is not that also dissipation? Can it be true, O Ahura, that even as we manipulate mortals to drive them to war or to make them play peace, to make them destroy their kingdoms and build up others by our angel armies, which they know not of, that we ourselves are ruled over by the gods in the Etherian heavens? Ahura said, it seemeth to me thus, Osiris, that is to say, that the Etherian gods above us rule us, but not in the same way, but by their absence from us when we do unjustly, and by their presence when we do righteously. We rule. That was good. Hold on. That was good. Hold on.
Well, you see my baby.
Your what?
The baby.
Nope. I have not. Check upstairs. Yeah, it shouldn't be. One day I seen the baby. Oh, we got it. Okay. Stop sign. Verse 13. Ahura said, it seemeth to me thus, Osiris, that is to say, that the Etherian gods above us rule us, but not in the same way, but by their absence from us when we do unjustly, and by their presence when we do righteously. We rule over mortals by direct action upon them, shaping their destinies by our heavenly wills, and they are often cognizant of our angel servants being with them. But when we cannot appropriate a mortal to do our wills, we withdraw our angels and suffer him to fall into the hand of Druhas. That's really trash. Thank you. Okay. That was from your dad. Okay. Verse 14. Ahura continued, not that the gods above us, O Osiris, send evils upon us, but that we foster evils within our own kingdoms, which take root like thorns and nettles in a neglected field, and they grow and environ us. Even this I have seen in thy heavens in the far future. It will come upon thee, O Osiris, and with all thy wisdom and strength, thou wilt meet the same fate as Deus and be cast into hell. Osiris said, were I to judge by the all-self gods who have been before me, I should assent unto thy wise judgment. But hear thou me, O Ahura, for it is for mine is not like any other heavenly kingdom, nor formed for my own glory. This then is that I will that I will accomplish. I will cast out sin from amongst mortals and all manner of wickedness, and I will give them a heavenly kingdom on earth. They shall war no more, nor deal unjustly with one another, nor have suffering, nor immature deaths, nor famines, nor sickness, but peace and love and righteousness and good works and nobleness. For I will go down to them in person in time to come, and I will take with me angels high raised and appoint them unto mortals, and give them corporal bodies for their pleasure, and they shall be teachers of man on earth, And man shall put away all selfishness and deceit and lust and lying, and the races of man shall be taught how to beget offspring in purity and wisdom. And in that day I will take back the Druhas of heaven and engraft them on mortals and re-raise them up with understanding. Wherefore, O Ahura, though I fortify myself in all this, am I not laboring in the right way? And so, after engraft them on mortals, after the word engraft is reference letter T. So let's hop to the back. Page 387. And 387 T said, this is by some called reincarnation. Some who have spirits thus engrafted are said to be possessed of a familiar spirit. 1882. Tiffany, I just saw your comment from earlier. She said, "Mean girl, your patience is too much for me." Oh, girl, you gotta have patience in this household full of shenanigans. Okay, let me read this again. Look, verse 18, page 368. And in that day, I will take back the Druhas of heaven and engraft them on mortals and re-raise them up with understanding. Wherefore, O Ahura, though I fortify myself in all of this, am I not laboring in the right way? This by some is called reincarnation. Some who have spirits thus engrafted are said to be possessed of a familiar spirit. 1882 edition. Y'all, I know somebody that like this one particular person. I didn't say like any names or whatever. And from time to time I know that they come in, but I have to be careful with what I'm saying because I'm working a strategy to help them get free, because I realize in talking to said person that it's not that person that's talking, right? Especially when they try and come with some ancient wisdom that I know you haven't studied, and I know this is not coming from you. So I'm working on them. I'm trying to understand this. Okay, how do we get this person free? Because sometimes the person talks in, I would say, like third person, right? And when that person talks, it literally sounds like one of the false gods. Well, I'm the creator of this, and I'm thinking, my G, you only how many years old? You did what? No, I was the one, and I'm like, and then at first I'm like, they got to be playing. But the more I listen, and mind you, we had already gotten through we almost halfway through here. But some of the stuff that I've learned and jumping back to the back, listening to some of the things, I'm like, that is definitely the voice of another, right? So I'm trying to make sure I got this all understood carefully, so I can help this particular person get free of, I'm not going to say possession, but it is definitely an oppression, I would say, by Druk or somebody else's spirit, right? I'm just like, this is really, really interesting. This is really, really interesting, right? The church will call it being delivered of a demon spirit or whatever, but it's really interesting on some of the things this person says and does. Like, yeah, okay. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say about that right now. Okay. Verse 19 on page 368. Ahura said, "It seemeth to me a dangerous proceeding. I will compare thy plan to that of a teacher who took his pupil into a place of vice to teach him virtue. How can a heavenly kingdom exist amongst mortals to save? I'm sorry. How can a kingdom exist amongst mortals save with celibates? And they cannot people the world. And they cannot people the world. Is there any other way but by the delight of the lowest passion that man can be born into life? What belongeth to the flesh is of the flesh. The spirit repudiateth on repudiate. The spirit repudiateth on the earth. I'm sorry. Nope, that is not what it said. I added a word. What belongeth to the flesh is of the flesh. The spirit repudiateth the earth. Osiris said, it hath been said so, but I will cast the higher love down into the lower. Ahura said, why so thou canst? Ahura said, why so thou canst, canst, why so thou canst? But alas, will it remain down and forever grovel on the earth? I have seen a sweet maiden wed to a vicious husband, and she lifted him not up, but he pulled her down. Will not it be so with the higher love when thou weddest it to the passions? Behold the manner of the oracles. We appoint high raised angels to answer the questions of mortals, to lead them up to virtue and wisdom. But alas, mortals come not to the oracles to learn these things, but to learn wickedness and war and earthly gain. Will it not be so with thy kingdom founded on earth? Instead of helping mortals up, mortals will pull down the angels to answer them in their most sinful desires and curiosity. Yes, they do. Especially, I found that to be true with when people learn about magic, right? Like I learned about it and I understand how it's done for the most part, but then I realized how people can get way off, right? And it's like now I got an upper hand and I can do this, and you don't know that I done did this, and I got angelic help, unseen forces to help me. People lose their mind, right? And instead of understanding the spiritual dynamics and helping man to grow, now they done got off and sidetracked and doing things for their own gain, right? Learn a little bit about that in the book of Judgment yesterday, reading them 2 chapters, 36 and 37. But we know that is the wrong road to get upon. Understand it is there. Understand it in ways where you can identify it when it's being used against others and against you, and learn how to help people break free of the tyranny, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. Okay. This is good. I'll read verse 21 again on page 368. Oh, we had an hour. Ah. Ahura said, why so thou canst, but alas, will it remain down and forever grovel on the earth? I have seen a sweet maiden wed to a vicious husband, and she lifted him not up, but he pulled her down. Will not it be so with the higher love when thou weddest it to the passions? Behold the manner of the oracles. We appoint high raised angels to answer the questions of mortals, to lead them up to virtue and wisdom. But alas, mortals come not to the oracles to learn these things, but to learn wickedness and war and earthly gain. Will it not be so with thy kingdom founded on the earth? Instead of helping mortals up, mortals will pull down the angels to answer them in their most sinful desires and curiosity. Osiris said, thou hast great reason on thy side, and facts withal to sustain thee. Ye forget not, O Ahura, I have a temple built of stone on the earth, and a chamber where I can come and command the kingdom through the mortal king. Ahura said, behold, my mission is fruitless. I have now visited my three loves, Tayan, Sudga, and thee, and I cannot turn one, even a jot or tittle. In this I have great sorrow, for I fear the time may come when great darkness will be upon you all. Osiris said, I will consider thy wise words, O Ahura, and though thou now goest from me, my love will follow thee. Hereupon Osiris signaled the chief marshal and the vice gods, and they came. Then Osiris and Ahura embraced each other and parted, both saluting in the sign of love forever. Ahura retired even as he came, but backward, the vice gods on either side and the marshals leading the way. After they crossed the arena, Ahura was delivered to Egypt, and the chief marshal and the vice gods returned to Osiris. Egypt passed Ahura on his own attendants, who conducted him to his fire ship, wherein they embarked and set sail for his own heavenly place, Bara Pishanaha. Yeah, Oahspe College University. This is showing how inexperienced the gods are. Which chapter are you reading from? Now we're on chapter 45. So if it stays quiet, maybe we can get through 2 more chapters, right? Because it's Sunday. We got time. Okay, chapter 45. Book of Wars Against Jehovah, page 369. Jehovah suffered the self-gods to prosper for more than 400 years. Yeah, Elijah, my oldest son, is out there with the small mini Murphs, right? So if he out there for a little while, we'll probably be able to get through a couple more chapters. He keep him occupied. Jehovah hath suffered the self-gods to prosper for more than 400 years, and Tan and Sutga and Osiris became the mightiest gods that ever ruled on the earth. Know then these things of them in heaven and earth, whereof the libraries of Jehovah's kingdoms relate more fully, that of which the following is a synopsis, to wit: first of Tan, then Sutga, then Osiris. And of Tan's heavenly kingdom, 2 vice gods, No John and Wang Siyat, chief high marshal Kolotska, and under him 30,000 marshals, chief general He Gyang, and under him 100,000 generals and high captains. Of these, 20,000 were allotted to dominion of mortals in Japheth. The others served in heaven, mostly about the throne of Tan. Chiefly distinguished as gods on the earth were Tan's 14 chief generals: Kakan Kat, Yam Yam, Tochin Wo, Hojan Yo, Waka Oki Yanos, Hang Li, Lutz Ram, Li Wang, Thu Wawach, Uwerga, Roth, Izza, Tugal, and Ah Shung. Verse 3. These generals were divided into 2 parts, 7 each, and they were allotted equally of the 20,000 ranked generals deputed to the earth, and these again were allotted each 30,000 angel warriors. Tan had said to these 14 chief generals, when ye come to the earth, and finding 2 cities near together, both of which worship other gods than me, ye shall divide yourselves into 2 parts, and one army shall go to one mortal city, and the other to the other, and by inspiration and otherwise ye shall bring the 2 cities to war against each other until both are broken down or destroyed. After which ye shall inspire another city that worshipeth me to come and possess both of those that are destroyed. Better it is to make our enemies kill each other than to kill them ourselves. And such was the mode of warfare by Tan, that all the land of Japheth was subdued unto himself in less than 100 years, save the matter of 1,000,000 Faithists scattered here and there, and of the Listians who were in the mountains and wilderness. And great and costly temples were built in all the cities of Japheth and dedicated to Tan, creator and ruler of heaven and earth. Now, as to the worshippers of Josh and Hojas, they were not converted but subdued, and they worshiped their God in secret and made rites and ceremonies whereby they might know one another and better escape persecution. Many of these rites partook after the manner of the ancient rite of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. And after Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, it has 2 references. Reference number 18 at the bottom, which says Baugh-Ghan-Ghad is just spelled different and it's, not broken up by the dashes. And then it has a reference letter U. So jumping to page 387, the letter U says, see chapter Baugh-Ghan-Ghad and book of Saphah, 1882 edition. Let's just look at it real quick and see how long it is. Let's find it first. Table of contents, book of Saphah, page 550. Yes. You tired already? That's pretty long. It's 54 verses. Um, okay, so it looks like this. I'm not gonna read it. We'll read it when we get to it. Well, I don't know if we probably should read it now. Maybe I should read it now, right? Because if I was reading this myself, I would actually go through and read it. So let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna take a few minutes. This might be the extra chapter we're gonna read because this is so long. Because I think yeah, we should. Okay, anytime you studying on your own, don't skip over it. If you got to read a whole chapter to make sure you understand what it's talking about to continue on in this chapter, it's like one of those detours in learning that you got to go through before you can go any further, right? You got to go here before you can continue further. Otherwise, you're not going to understand. So let's just do it. Okay, so it looks. Oh, hold on. Let me put this here. So it looks like another one of those initiation ceremonies, like what we read. Uh, I forget what it's called, but it's right before the chapter, the Chamber of Adepts. It's they're going back and forth with the initiates and who comes here and why do you come. Okay, so let's read it. Page 550. Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, alias Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. It's the same. Oh, and it's another reference. Q. So let's look at Q here. Hold on. Go to the end of this chapter. They give you a reference right before you start. Book of Saphah. This Bond's Book of Praise. I went too far. What you looking for, babe?
My put bags. Put bags in trash bag. Put trash bag.
But what are you looking for?
Put bags. Put bags.
Oh, like the contractor's bags.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have any of those.
I thought we had something.
No, it's just yeah, they're not the contractor's bag. I think we used all of them. I don't think there were any left. Okay. Q. Okay. It's on page 572. Q. These rites and ceremonies, according to the tables relating to the solar phalanx, must have been about 15,000 years before Cosmon and located in Eastern Asia and Africa. There are philosophers of today who hold that in national affairs. There are philosophers of today who hold that in national affairs might is right. What? That don't make sense. These rites and ceremonies, according to the tables relating to the solar phalanx, must have been about 15,000 years before Cosmon and located in Eastern Asia and Africa. There are philosophers of today who hold that in national affairs might is right. Okay. All right, so back to page 550. Baugh-Ghan-Ghad said, I go forth. All who follow me are of me. By will only is anything accomplished. That which I desire, I do. Without me, nothing is done. My name is Might. And so Baugh-Ghan-Ghad is, they use acronyms for the name now. So instead of keep saying Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, is BGG. BGG said, fear is failure. I am without fear. I am without fear. I am the all S incorporated on the low earth, having no fear. The all S gave forth, having no fear. By this created he the creation. Like a lion goeth he forth. The sun is under his feet, so is the broad earth. Whatsoever liveth or is dead, inanimate objects, fleeth before his breath. Even death cometh and goeth by his command. BGG said, Go forth, my sons and daughters, multiply, fearing naught. Inasmuch as ye do these things, so will I exalt you. For inasmuch as ye do not these things, I will bind and enslave. BGG said, Think not I chose a weak man or a coward to be a king. I chose only the excuse me, I chose only the valiant that fear not. Think not that I exalt the weak in heaven and make them gods over mortals. I choose the slayer of men and the death dealing. At this part of the service, the initiates march before the throne. BGG, who dareth my power? Down on your bellies and crawl like serpents before my throne. Down and speak, I command. The first initiate. By Rux, I swear, I will not down. Second initiate. By him who standeth above the sun, I will not down. Third initiate. Nor I, though thou drinkest my blood. Similar ejaculations from other initiates. BGG. Then must I, from my throne of skulls, descend to raise the seat another row. Bring here my battle axe to servant. Oh, he said that to his servant. Bring here my battle axe to servant. The axe is bought, and the master, clothed in a lion's skin, with the serpent's skin coiled about his head, descendeth from the throne, and seizing the battle axe, falleth upon the initiates who have been previously drilled. During the ceremonies, some of the initiates are killed outright, generally, not intentionally. A cellar is underneath, and over this the boards are made to trip. The master knoweth this, and the initiates, not knowing it, hath the advantage. The fray of skill lasted about an hour, during which the initiates are mostly sent below. No, go put it back. BGG, Haut, with God's. Hey, guys, out the kitchen. Why did you put that in there? You're not going to come back later and get it. Go put it back in the garage in the refrigerator. No, Mom, no, I don't care. Get water. Gotta go lock it back up. The master knoweth this, and the initiates, not knowing it, have the advantage. The fray of skill lasted about an hour, during which the initiates are mostly sent below. BGG, Haut, with gods I have fought. With gods I am king and brother. Bella, come forth, fallen foes, and live triumphantly. With brothers like these, I will go forth and gather skulls and build another temple. The servants help all that are alive out of the cellar, and if they are well and strong, they are spared. But if they are maimed bodily, they are slain with a battle axe. All that thus fail to take the first degree have their skulls scraped and added to the throne or judgment seat. During the ceremony, it's like, who want to go through this type of ceremony? No, gee, I'm gonna just be regular people. During the ceremonies, and along with the initiates, are two or more who had previously initiated, and these, of course, are spared. First initiate, to thee and none else, I swear everlastingly, thine be forever the place of skulls. Oahspe Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Oh, okay. So this place of skulls is also called what we know as Golgotha. Ooh. Oh, something just clicked. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me keep reading. Verse 12. BGG. Know then ye iotas, and in parentheses after iota, IOD apostrophe A. Ye iota gods, I am descended from Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, the all spirit of light and power. To him incarnate in me, virgin of the corporeal world, my blood is fed by the souls of men. In the days before the flood of waters, my sire built a temple 100 guin square. 100 guin square. With skulls built he it, and feasted on their souls, uprising in the firmament above the sun, companion of the stars. Okay, and so after 100 guin square is another reference. It's reference letter R. Reference letter R says, allowing a skull, which is on page 572, allowing a skull to be 6 by 8 inches, the inside and outside walls of a building, as described herein, would require 8,000 skulls. 1882 edition. Okay, back to verse 12, towards the bottom. On the spirits of mortals slain, his spirit feasted full of rich strength, till all the world bowed down and called him master. And at the bottom it has plate 84, tablet of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Let me show it close for Facebook, YouTube. Okay. Audrey, shalom, shalom. Page 552. Oruk, the chorus stirs from behind, concealed. All hail, O master, man and chief of blood. We come from the abode of flying wolves and lions and bears, upraised in the Oahspe, Oahspe is sky, rocks that feed the black earth, the thrones of mighty gods, GHAD. Okay, that's what that picture is. Okay. All hail, O master, man and chief of blood. We come from the abode of flying wolves and lions and bears, upraised in the Oahspe sky, rocks that feed the black earth, the thrones of mighty gods. Great Baugh-Ghan-Ghad called us forth, for the clang of thy battle axe shook the stars, saying, down, down, O ye gods, to me am I. And in parentheses after me is Mother Earth. My holy begotten Son, King of men, doth feed his throne with dead men's skulls. Behold, O King of men, Behold, O King of men, these thy valiant fighters from their birth are reared as brother gods. Oh, slay them not, but teach them that he who would rule in heaven must begin on earth and send his neighbors bellowing down to dust. Bring them before the altar, smoking in their blood, and on the ark a chest which containeth incense. Let them mingle in covenant with the everlasting Son. The marshals now conduct them before the altar, whence they cast down their battle axes, and they join hands encircling the ark. From the east, west, north, and south, the high priests come forth out of recesses into the walls of the temple, and the priests in twos and fours bear torches and approach the altar and the ark, chanting, for the glory of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, the all-powerful creator of heaven and earth. The master and the initiates take of their blood, which issueth from their wounds, and mingled it together, and licked with their tongues the commingled blood, saying, drink ye it in remembrance of me, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, my sire, the creator, doing all things for his glory. First of all, that's disgusting. Second of all, there are great sanitary issues that go along with doing that. Third of all, ain't this what Jesus told y'all to do in the church house? Fourth of all, back here in the book of Judgement, at the end of chapter 35, it talks about this, and we didn't read it yesterday, but let's go back to it real quick. Look, we jumping all over these places, but I really wanted to read this to y'all. Ooh, I flipped right to it. Look, page 696. We definitely needed to read this. Listen to this. Page 396, chapter 35 of the book of Judgment. Listen here. Matter of fact, and I posted, this is actually posted. I screenshot these pages. Yesterday, I put it in the community section and in the comment section in Facebook and as a regular post on Facebook. Yeah, close that big door, Elijah. Thank you. Listen to this. So remember in chapter 35, it's going through telling you that judgment is rendered against certain laws, right? Because as the times change, all of this stuff is done away with, and some things have never been commanded to do in the first place. And of eating flesh and drinking blood is one of them. Listen, verse 22. In Cosmon, page 696, in Cosmon, man shall not be longer driven in yoke and harness. He shall stand upright before Jehovah, practicing his highest light with rejoicing, being a free man and a brother to his God. Verse 23, behold, the Uzzians have a custom of eating bread and drinking wine, saying, after the manner of the worship. Oh, I didn't even realize this was here yesterday. Look, bruh, listen, yo, we definitely had to read it. Look, let me read it. Look, because we're reading about Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Look, listen. Look, verse 23. Behold, the Uzzians have a custom of eating bread and drinking wine, saying, after the manner of the worshippers of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad of old, eat of this, for it is my flesh, and drink of this, for it is my blood, signifying that they do was commanded by me, God of heaven and earth. Verse 24, judgment is rendered against this custom with abhorrence. Moreover, it shall be henceforth known as blasphemy against Jehovah. Thy God hath never commanded man to eat flesh and blood, nor pretend. Look, scriptures don't need, look, didn't y'all hear me say we ain't supposed to act like we eating the flesh or drinking blood, because doing communion is acting like you're eating flesh and drinking blood. I say we ain't supposed to do that for play. I've been saying that for the last couple of years, right? And this is the first place I have ever seen this say he's never commanded you to do this nor act like you're doing this. I'm like, bruh, I think I'm on the right path. Listen, I'm gonna start at verse 23 again. Listen. Behold, the Uzzians have a custom of eating bread and drinking wine, saying, after the manner of the worshippers of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad of old, eat of this, for it is my flesh, and drink of this, for it is my blood, signifying that they do was commanded by me, God of heaven and earth. Judgment is rendered against this custom with abhorrence. Moreover, it shall be henceforth known as blasphemy against Jehovah. Thy God hath never commanded man to eat flesh and blood, nor pretend that bread and wine are flesh and blood, nor commanded them to be eaten in remembrance of the flesh and blood of any man born of woman. So if y'all have had a problem with giving up communion, let this be the day that it sinks down deep in your shanana or spirit. Shanana just sounds, it's fun to say. Instead of saying spirit, I say shanana. Let it sink down deep in your shanana that communion is blasphemy against the great creator, right? Stop it, even today. And repent. Father, forgive us all for ever doing that, right? Just repent right now, everybody. Father, forgive us all. We didn't know, but now that we know, we're doing better. We'll never do it again. Look, judgment is rendered against this custom with abhorrence. Moreover, it shall be henceforth known as blasphemy against Jehovah. Thy God hath never commanded man to eat flesh and blood, nor pretend that bread and wine were flesh and blood, nor commanded them to be eaten in remembrance of the flesh and blood of any man born of woman. Also, they have a custom. Oh, that was it. Okay. And it goes, this was the part yesterday where I was talking about, I didn't break it up. So let me break it up now. This goes into the next one. I just kind of, my whole big box, I was super excited. And I didn't realize this went into another custom that was judgment was rendered against. It's talking about draping. Okay, I'll just read it. Also, they have a custom of decorating and draping themselves in crepe and characterizing the same as a sign of mourning for the dead. Judgment is rendered against such custom, but without prohibition. Jehovah createth alive, and Jehovah taketh life away, for all things are his. Remember thy creator with wisdom, and neither in thy dress nor habit shalt thou censure him for what hath been. Neither curb thou the full sorrow of thy heart and thy soul, because thy brother or sister or son or daughter or father or mother have passed away, right? So you know how like when somebody passed away, they may get like 40 days of mourning or whatever. So he said with this particular custom, we ain't limiting you to 40 days. Like, vent the whole sorrow of your heart. If it takes you 80 days to grieve for your parents or your son or your daughter, take the full time that you need to grieve and get it out, right? Look, this was so beautiful. I'm just like, yo, this is amazing. Thank you, son. Verse 30, page 696. Neither curb thou the full sorrow of thy heart and thy soul, because of thy brother or sister, son or daughter, or father or mother have passed away. But remember, Jehovah is over all his works, and provideth wisely unto the living and the dead. Jehovah hath said, To man I gave an earthly body, that he might learn earthly things. But death I give to man, that he might rise to the inheritance of my heavenly kingdom. He appointeth a time unto all, to some an hour, to some a year, and to some 100 years. Every one fulfilleth to result in wisdom and happiness, and for the glory of the Almighty. Okay, so that's, y'all, this is so good. That's a portion of the book of Judgment. Okay, so let's go back to this second reference that we're going through. All right, so we pause. I'll just read this verse again. Hold on. Oh, that is verse 13. Okay, let me start the whole verse 13 over. Okay. Oruk, the choristers from behind concealed. All hail, all hail. Page 552, y'all. We're back on page 552. Book of Saphah and the book of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Oruk, the choristers from behind concealed. All hail, O master, man and chief of blood. We come from the abode of flying wolves and lions and bears, upraised in the Oahspe sky, rocks that feed the black earth, the thrones of mighty gods. Great Baugh-Ghan-Ghad called us forth, for the clang of the battle axe shook the stars, saying, Down, down, O ye gods, to me, Mother Earth. My holy begotten Son, King of men, doth feed his throne with dead men's skulls. Behold, O King of men, these thy valiant fighters from their birth are reared as brother gods, GHADS. Oh, slay them not, but teach them that he who would rule in heaven must begin on earth, and send his neighbors bellowing down to dust. Bring them before the altar, smoking in their blood, and on the ark a chest which containeth incense. Let them mingle in covenant with the everlasting Son. The marshals now conduct them before the altar, whence they cast down their battle axes, and they join hands encircling the ark. From east to west, north and south, the high priests come forth out of recesses into the walls of the temple, and the priests in twos and fours bear torches and approach the altar and the ark, chanting for the glory of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, the all-powerful creator of heaven and earth. Excuse me. The master and the initiates take of their blood, which issueth from their wounds, and mingle it together, and lick with their tongues the commingled blood, saying, drink ye it in remembrance of me and of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, my sire, the creator, doing all things for his glory. And now come the Ahada, bringing forth strips of flesh from the thighs of those who were slain in the ceremonies, and they bring them to the master, and he putteth the strips of flesh under his own thigh, and all the initiates put their hands under his thigh. Holy crap. Yo, this is the same ceremony Israel was doing, but they didn't mention the flesh that they had. You remember the putting the hand under the thigh thing that Israel do when they, yo, hold up. I'm glad I decided, clearly I was being led. Girl, go ahead and read this. I don't care that it's 53 verses. Read it. Look, hold on. Look. The master and the initiates take of their blood, and this look, y'all, this is so good to me, because when I came out of Christianity into my Hebrew roots, man, I studied the Torah, the rites and the ceremonies, the Levitical laws and stuff, and keeping to them and all these different things. And the king is supposed to keep a copy of the Torah on him, reading it day and night so that he can rule righteously. And if they put the Torah away, how can they rule righteously? They have to understand all that. Listen, this is so good to my soul. Look, some of the things are clicking that I learned while studying that on where some of these practices originated from and why they doing, and different things that weren't mentioned, some things they kind of scrub from Torah, right? And it's like something is missing here. What is something you can tell something is missing. The more you study it and really get into it and dig deeper into it, you can tell that it's an incomplete text, that things are missing. Right, but just off rip, just reading through it and just read it because we're supposed to be reading, because that's what we do, right? We Hebrews, we read the Torah, right? If you just like that, you miss a whole lot of stuff that's not being said that you don't even realize something might be missing here, right? Somebody ain't telling the full story, because that you can't go from here to here. Look, this is so good. Look, okay. The master and the initiates take of their blood, which issueth from their wounds, and mingle it together, and lick with their tongues the commingled blood, saying, drink ye it in remembrance of me and of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, my sire, the creator, doing all things for his glory. Yes, they put their hands under the thigh to make an oath, right? And now come the Ahada, bringing forth strips of flesh from the thighs of those who were slain in the ceremonies, and they bring them. That's the whole reason why they put the hand under the thigh, right? To let you know, first of all, we didn't kill these regents, all right? And we're gonna take a pound of their flesh, right? Look, and now come the Ahada, bringing forth strips of flesh from the thighs of those who were slain in the ceremonies, and they bring them to the master, and he putteth the strips of flesh under his own thigh, and all the initiates put their hands under his thigh also. For this is swearing an oath by the thigh, and they say, I put my hand under this thigh, and I am sworn. Thereupon the master taketh the strips of flesh and eateth thereof, and handed it to the initiates, saying, This is the nasty. This is the flesh of my body. Eat ye of it in remembrance of me and of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. For in my blood and the flesh of my body have I established the Isa al-Guihai, church militant over all the world. Thereupon the initiates take the flesh and eat thereof. Bruh. Verse 14, Cohen. And in parentheses, like if you were a Hebrew Israelite or Hebrew roots, we know Cohen is a chief priest, right? Cohen, the chief priest, on this tablet, write ye your names in blood, and by these bones and skulls swear ye. Oh, let me show y'all this. Okay, so on the next page is plate 86. Okay, babe. And this plate shows, it says, sectional view of Golgotha Temple 11,000 years before Cosmon. And I'm not, if you don't have the book, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but it's a wall. It's a temple wall. And in the wall, there it divides sections of the wall with pillars. And the wall, you can see faces. These are the skulls, right? So I explain it because I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that. I'm trying to get close. Well, hold on. Facebook. I think YouTube can see it at the top a little bit. Get a little close. Can you see it? It's not little circles, but there. If you get close enough, you can see the faces. Can y'all see it? Okay. Golgotha. Right, the skulls. Okay. Verse 14. Cohen, the chief priest, on this tablet write ye your names in blood, and by these bones and skulls swear ye. Initiates, on the tablet write we our names in blood, and by these bones and skulls we wear. Skull and bones. Cohen and initiates together, to keep sacred the oath under the thigh, to preserve the holy words of the feast of flesh and blood for coming generations, that the light and glory of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, the Creator, may shine forever. Amen. Boy, Christians, somebody ain't gonna be able to sleep tonight. And I hope it's multiple pastors is about to that led their people in communion today. Wait, would this be? No, this is the last Sunday. Some they do communion like first Sunday of the month. What's this? This is the last Sunday. I don't know what made a pastor something somebody see this today and get real convicted about leading their church in communion next Sunday, right? I hope you can't sleep at all knowing that you're doing something that is an abomination to the great Creator, right? May you not be able to sleep at all until you stop the madness. Stop it, people. Stop it. Oh, listen. Verse 15, initiates. On the tablet write we our names in blood, and by these bones and skulls we wear. Cohen and initiates together, to keep sacred the oaths under the thigh, to preserve the holy words of the feast of flesh and blood for coming generations, that the light and the glory of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, the Creator, may shine forever. Amen. Isn't this amazing how his name is conveniently, although it's spelled God, G-H-A-D, isn't it amazing and convenient in the church? They just shortened it and they changed the spelling of it. G-O-D. Yes, we're worshiping our God. No, my G, you probably worshiping Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, right? Not G-O-D, G-H-A-D. That people are none the wiser, right? This is why they fool with the languages so much. They got words that sound alike but are spelt differently and completely have different meanings. This is the wisdom and tyranny in this deception. Oh my gosh. Listen. Verse 16. Cohen and initiates together, to keep sacred the oath under the thigh, to preserve the holy words of the feast of flesh. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. The feast of flesh and blood, not communion. Use the right word for it. Maybe wake some people up. Cohen and initiates together, to keep sacred the oath under the thigh, to preserve the holy words of the feast of flesh and blood for coming generations, that the light and glory of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, the Creator, may shine forever. Amen. If I was outside, I'd spit on the ground, but I'm in my house, so I ain't gonna do it, but y'all get it, right? I'm disgusted about this. I'm more so disgusted because I fell for this crap for years. Ugh. Ugh. The M. Magan. Okay, I think it's Magan, M apostrophe Ghan, which are the women. The Magan, the women, now come forward, having clothes about the loins, and they bring the dead men and place their bodies on the altar of sacrifice, which hath been previously heaped up with dry wood. And when the fire is lighted, the Magan march around the altar of fire, singing and clapping hands. Presently there appeareth in the smoke and the foul smell of the burnt flesh the ox evil spirits, so that many can behold them, and they eat of the smoke and of the foul smell, which are the food of the spirits of darkness. And when they have feasted satisfactorily, they take of the smoke and of the foul smell and carry them away to Hada, to their companions, of whom their number is endless. Verse 17, one page 552. Master, Hayuta, behold, my sire appeareth in a cloud of smoke and fire. Bow down your heads, Magana, the women, and invoke his mighty power. Verse 18, Kowina, the high priest. O thou mighty Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, creator of heaven and earth, appear, thou thou that slayest all and feasteth thereupon. Appear. Wait. Presently, the chief of the Oahspe maketh a light in the midst of the black smoke, showing a face of fire, and it is a man's face, but the body he showeth is dark, and of the form of a lion. And now the people march around about within the temple, beating together their battle axes and spears of wood, and clapping their hands, singing the while. The master revealeth himself in the lion's skin, and ascendeth his throne of skulls, and he is no longer called master, but Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. BGG. As my sire reigneth in heaven, so reign I on the earth. Initiates. Hail, O Father, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Hail, Holy Son, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Father, Son, God. Should have been Ghad, God, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Initiates. Hail, Holy Father, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Hail, Holy Son, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. How you the Father and the Son, my G? You both? BGG. I command the earth. Initiates. The Son commandeth the earth. BGG. I command the mighty waters. Initiates. The Son commandeth the mighty waters. BGG. I command the air above the earth. Initiates. The Son commandeth the air above the earth. BGG. For these are mine to keep forever. Initiates. For these are the sons to keep forever. BGG. I am the holy Isagal Hoy, church militant. Initiates. The Son is the holy Isagal Hoy. BGG. Would you quit sliding your feet across the floor and pick them up? Thank you, son. BGG. I command the air above the earth. Initiates. The Son commandeth the air above the earth. BGG. For these are mine to keep forever. Initiates. For these are the sons to keep forever. BGG. I am the holy Isagal Hoy, church militant. Initiates. The Son is the holy Isagal Hoy. BGG. My holy labor is to subdue the nations and the tribes of men. Initiates. The Son's labor is to subdue the nations and tribes of men. BGG. I make treaties or break them when I will. Initiates. The Son maketh or breaketh treaties when he will. I can see how this is indoctrination at its best. And it carried on. And he said, he a church militant, my G. Clearly, this is still going on today. This deception, this delusion runs so deep. I'm just like, boy, BGG. I make treaties or break them when I will. Initiates, the son maketh or breaketh treaties when he will. BGG, for all things on the earth are mine. Initiates, all things on the earth are his. BGG, I am immaculate and cannot do wrong. Initiates, the son is immaculate and can do no wrong. BGG, right and wrong must be judged by me. Initiates, right and wrong must be judged by the son. BGG, by my will do I make wrong right or right wrong. Initiates, by the son's will maketh he wrong right or right wrong. You see how this is? They trying to really pump into your head. Yes, SIL. Look, it is called magic. This is exactly what this is, right? It's just reiterating that the Father is the Son is the Father. We are one and the same, right? Yo, this is BG, verse 43. BGG, I am the all holy standard. Initiates, the Son is the all holy standard. BGG, I cannot err. I and my Father are one. BGG, I cannot err. I and my Father are one. Initiates, the Son cannot err. The Son and the Father are one. BGG, I now demand 1,000 skulls. Initiates, the Son demandeth 1,000 skulls. BGG, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad demandeth 1,000 skulls. Initiates, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad shall have 1,000 souls, which is why some of the Christians are some of the bloodiest warriors on the face of this planet. They are warring for their God, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. His name is fun to say. It might be in the title today. I don't know. Maybe that and flesh and blood, something gory. The title has got to be today, right? All right. Verse 49, and it's 54 verses, and we literally be done in like less than 30 seconds. 49, BGG, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad demanded 1,000 skulls. Initiates, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad shall have 1,000 skulls. BGG, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad demanded a pool of human blood for his son's silver boat. Initiates, go ahead, hurry up, Pool. That's enough. Close it, close it, close it, close it. Thank you. Initiates, Baugh-Ghan-Ghad shall have a pool of human blood for his son's silver boat. Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, go forth, my brother Iota, gods, and bring the skulls and the blood, for this is the time of the sacred solemn feast. Initiates, we will forth and bring 1,000 skulls and the blood for our king. All hail, mighty King of men, all hail. Okay, that's it. The master now riseth to his feet with his battle axe outstretched menacingly. The initiates upraise their axes and spears menacingly also, and walking backward, depart out of the temple. Bruh. Now, let's go back to the original reading. That was a long reference, right? Which is page 368. Hold on, 368? No, 369. Chapter 45, verse 6. Now let me reread verse 6. Now that we understand a little bit more about Baugh-Ghan-Ghad, let's read verse 6 again. Now, as to the worshippers of Jos and Hojos, they were not converted, but subdued, and they worshiped their God in secret and made rites and ceremonies whereby they might know one another and the better escape persecution. Many of these rites partook after the manner of the ancient rite of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. Of the great cities destroyed in these wars were Hongwi, Chalgo, and Shingto. For Hongwi, the wars lasted 20 years, and there were slain within the city 500,000 men, women, and children. Guys, and we're gonna pause after this. This chapter. It's 23 verses. We're on verse 8. The wars of Chalgo lasted 40 years, and within her walls were slain 3,000 I'm sorry, 3. Okay, give me a few minutes. I'll be done in a few minutes, babe. Sit it over there on the counter. Verse 8, page 369. The wars of Chalgo lasted 40 years, and within her walls were slain 300,000 men, women, and children. For Shingto, the wars lasted 25 years, and there were slain within her walls 300,000 men, women, and children. In the destruction of Hongwi, there were consigned to ashes 400 houses of philosophy, 2,400 colleges, and 12,000 public schools, all of which had been made glorious in the reign of Hong, the king of the city. Because he worshipped Hojas, his great city was destroyed. In Chalgo, there were destroyed 600 houses of philosophy and 200 colleges of great learning. Here was the temple of Jonk, Jonk. Here was the temple of Jonk, which was dedicated to worship of Jos, God, and which in building required 20,000 men, 12 years. It had 2,000 pillars of Awana stone, polished, and at the blood altar it had 12,000 skulls, of which the great king Baugh-Ho was slaughtered in the name of Hojas. The throne of worship for the king was set with diamonds and pearls, and it had 1,000 candlesticks of gold and silver, and the fine silk drapery and fine wool drapery within the temple were sufficient, if spread out, for 500,000 men to lie down on, and yet not cover up the half of it. And the drapery was painted and embroidered with pictures of battles and wars and of scenes in heaven, for the ornamentation of which drapery 20,000 men and women had labored for 40 years, all of which were destroyed, together with all the great city and all its riches and magnificence. Verse 11. Xing Do was a city of fashion and splendor, inhabited by the richest men in the world. She had a temple called Chao-King, dedicated to learning, but in fact appropriated to display, but in fact appropriated to the display of wealth and pageantry. It was round with a high projecting roof, the eaves of which rested on 10,000 pillars of polished stone. There were 400 doorways to enter the temple, but within each doorway, one came against the square columns of precious stones that supported the roof inside, and to either side of the columns were passageways that led into the 400 chambers within. In the center of the temple, artificial stalactites. What? Stalactites? I think it's stalactites. Okay. In the center of the temple, artificial stalactites, 20,000, hung from the roof. These were made of silk and wool and fine linen, and painted, and of colors so bright that mortal eye could scarce look upon them, and they were as ice with the sun shining thereon, forming rainbows in every direction. Here came kings and queens and governors of great learning, for here were deposited copies of the greatest books in all the world. Besides the temple of Cheoking, there were 7 great temples built to Jos, either of which was large enough for 10,000 men to do sacrifice in at one time. I'm almost done, like seriously. I only got a few more verses. What you need?
I'm hungry.
I know. Give me a few minutes. I'm almost done.
I'll make some pancakes for us.
Okay. A few minutes. I'm almost done. Okay, y'all. A few more verses. Verse 12, page 369. Besides the temple of Cheoking, there were 7 great temples built to Jos, either of which was large enough for 10,000 men to do sacrifice in at one time. For 25 years, the people of Shangdo fought to save their great city from destruction, but it fell and was destroyed, and all the temples with it by King Bing was laid low. Next to these were the following great cities that were destroyed: Gawi, which had 100 houses of philosophy and 40 colleges for great learning, one temple with 800 polished pillars and 2,000 arches, 30 temples of wheat and corn sacrifice, one feed house where was stored food for 100,000 people in case of famine, sufficient for 8 years. And all these and the libraries of the records of gods and lords of earth, and all things whatever in the city were burnt, and all things whatever in the city were burnt to ashes. The city of Young U of 200,000 inhabitants, which had 70 houses of philosophy.
Did you stop? Are we supposed to add 3?
No, you're not. Now you're gonna have to dilute that a little bit more. Leave it alone. Isaiah, go close those.
We just saw 8.
The city of, well, verse 14. Isaiah, stop. Bella, leave it alone. The city of Young U of 200,000 inhabitants, which had 70 houses of philosophy and 35 colleges of great learning, besides many schools, one temple of the stars, where lectures were given daily to the people to teach them the names and places of the stars and their wondrous size and motion. 40 temples of sacrifice, 7 of which were large enough to hold all the inhabitants of Young U, the great city. By King Shaing, it was laid in ashes, and nothing but heaps of stones remained to tell where the city had been. The city, Ganshi, which had 30 houses of philosophy and 70 temples of sacrifice, 2 temples of the stars dedicated to Jas, 85 colleges of great learning, and also a feed house stored sufficiently to feed the city 7 years. And there were 200,000 inhabitants within the city walls. 12 years, the people of this city fought against the incited plunderers, the warriors under the god Tan, but were conquered at last, and their city laid low. And the great cities, Gi, Owan, and Chong, and Gun, and Kaon, and Jongwon, and So, and Wachagan, and Simsen, and Gi, and Tian, and Cho, and Da, and Ami, and Kongshu, and Gu, and Hangsgay, and Gyeong Young, and Boy Gunk, all of which had houses of philosophy and colleges of learning and public schools and temples of sacrifice and feed houses and hundreds of thousands of inhabitants. And all these cities were destroyed, and only heaps of stone left to tell where they had been. Verse 17. Besides these, there were more than 2,000 cities of less prominence destroyed, and yet of villages and small cities, so great were they in number, which were destroyed, that no man ever counted them. City against city, king against king, man against man, for the inhabitants of Japheth were obsessed to madness and war and destruction. Almost without cause would they fall upon one another to destroy. For so had Tan sent his hundreds of millions of warring angels to inspire mortals to destroy all knowledge and instruction and learning and philosophy, and to destroy all trace of all other gods and lords, that he alone might reign supreme. And these angels taught mortals how to make explosive powder and guns to shoot with, more deadly than the bow and arrow, and taught the secret of underdigging a city and blowing it up with explosive powder. So the fair land of Japheth, with its wisdom and great learning, was made as a distracted and broken up country. In all directions, the bones of mortals were scattered all over the lands, nor could the land be tilled without digging amongst the skulls and bones of the great giant race of Ehuans that once had peopled it. And of those who were not destroyed, one might say they were a poor, half starved, sickly breed, discouraged and helpless, badly whipped. And the spirits of the dead were on all the battlefields, lighting up the dark nights by their spirit fires, and in the morning and the twilight of evening, they could be seen by hundreds of thousands walking about, shy and wild. But an abundance of familiar spirits dwelt with mortals, took on Sargus forms, and ate and drank with them, and even did things of which is unlawful to mention. Thus was Japheth. Thus was Japheth one to the God's hand. Now of Sudga know ye. All right, beautiful people. I'm gonna call them right back. Okay. All right. So that is the reading for today. That was extremely long. It is we've been here 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's our references that we had to see all the way to the end, which I'm extremely glad that we did. Now we got a really good understanding of communion and some of these oaths that the Hebrews take, the hand under the thigh oath, all these things, y'all. This is amazing. All right, so thank y'all for hanging out today. Look at this page. 370. All right, y'all. It is Sunday. Happy Sunday, July the 31st, 2022, day 173 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets under the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1191. Nobody's ending it today. Everybody go. Ain't nobody ending it. Go. Everybody go. Everybody go. Everybody go. Everybody get behind me. Everybody can get behind me and gather around the table. That's what that sign said. If y'all have been trying to figure that out when I moved, it says gather around the table. Our eating kitchen table ain't came in yet, but we preparing it. So we gather around this little tiny fold-up table that the small kids eating on, but we sit at the big one out there in the dining room. Gather around.
No.
All right, y'all. We read Book of Wars Against Jehovah, pages 365 to page 370. And we also read the references in the book of Saphah, which is the book of Baugh-Ghan-Ghad. And we also went to the book of Judgement, which is in the back, to read a little bit more about communion and eating flesh and blood and how it is an abomination to the Creator.
Mom, can I get one of your sodas?
No.
No.
So I'm gonna make sure although I said it and y'all probably wrote them down, I'll reshare the references for those that didn't write it down, just in case they want to go back and look at it. And I'll also put the link for all of what we read today from the online version of the Oahspe. There's an online, and I place that link in the description box every day. We're reading it, just in case you don't have the blue one, you can still have access to it. So I put the link for those pages where those references that we read today can be found, right? Just in case you want to go back and read over it again. So with that being said, beautiful people, may the most holy, the ever present be with you all, and may the truth that you learn light your souls so bright that the entire room and even for miles within at least a 50-mile radius is lit by the light of your life. I love you all. Gloria, shalom, shalom. I'm glad I tuned in today. I always felt and knew something was wrong with people just saying the God names matter. Eating meat has always been wrong. Yeah. It's always been wrong, right? Okay, y'all. So with that being said, I love y'all, and I will see y'all back here tomorrow, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. All right, I'm ending it. Everybody back up. I'm ending it.
You were supposed to end this thing an hour ago.
Look, don't come in here counting my time, boy.
I always do.
Get out of here, Joshua.
Yeah. Bye, y'all. Peace.
Bye, y'all.